it's doing it. No,
Person and there's been no mishaps. It's working, so it's great.
it is great because Zoom can be a bit tetchy sometimes, right?
Well, yeah, it's always that person that's going, oh, I can't hear, or
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Well, congratulations on your new album. I've
thank you.
listened to it 3 times this morning, and I'm getting
Okay,
something new from it every single time. Um, so
lovely.
yeah, so just let me get my questions and my glasses on because I really can't see without them. Um, it seems like so I talked to you during your when you released your last album, and I think we talked for about an hour about the world and everything in it and everything going on with it.
Yeah,
We're really in a different place, even from just, I guess, because when was that? Was that 2021, 22?
2020, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just coming out of lockdowns, or maybe still slightly in them.
yes.
Um, so how much of the Brave New World has informed your new album?
I think when I think of the title, it goes away with the heat. It's got a local meaning,
Yes.
like we're in the subtropics.
Yep.
Um, Heat is relative to life in this part of the world, in particular Queensland. So it feels very Queensland, that title.
Yep.
But it also has a global meaning. I mean, there's global warming, which has been well established.
Yep.
Heat, things are getting hotter. If you look online, you'll see graphs above other graphs of lines where it demonstrates that temperatures are rising. There's the local aspect, and then there's the global aspect. The title also relates to the fact that we're living through the pandemic, and there are various responses. And I don't know if you remember, I think Planet America even used it in their Sting on the ABC,
Yep.
where Trump goes, it goes away with the heat. They say it goes away with the heat,
Yep.
which he was referring to COVID.
Yep.
And so I always thought that's a great title. And so it became a working title. It goes away with the heat.
Yep.
And because it felt, not only does it have this great local resonance, but it's also this global resonance. And we're all kind of local citizens, but we're also global citizens these days.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that is essentially the global temperature has risen, not just in temperature, but also how our life online, I guess,
Yep.
and our experiences online.
I
So
think, yeah, I was going to say heat also applies to so many other different issues that have arisen in recent times, like our completely boiling over property market. The economy seems to be boiling over with inflation, all of that sort of stuff, which you touched on your last album. A lot of that financial and economic stuff as well.
yeah, I I think essentially communities are still communities, people are still people, and people are essentially, a lot of people are essentially generous, I believe, inherently.
Yeah.
However, if you spent time online, you live in a place of resentment and outrage,
Yeah.
and it's constantly amplified. And so all of a sudden, we're having to spend time with the dodgy uncle or auntie who we never would have invited to our table.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
so what online media does, and the media does in general, is it's illuminating the dark corner. It's like the
Yes.
dark corner of the web is now all of a sudden being invited into the discussion.
Yeah.
And look, we used to run into these people in the pub, and we'd be friendly to them and we'd tolerate it, but it wouldn't go any further than that.
You could slowly back away and think, I'm not going to see that person
In
again.
the pub discussion, but now all of a sudden it has to be an important part of all our discussions. And
Hmm.
I think that's what we're coming to terms with. It's this continual conflict that selves,
Yeah.
and it's really a distraction from all
The
these
real.
things that matter. And you refer to property, I and and costs of living. I
Hmm.
think all these things indicate precarity and real issues which matter, but
Yeah.
we're distracted from that when we're living our lives in this media. And so our writing is always observational,
Hmm.
and it's always looking at, I guess, the absurdities in that, but also it's just observational in um, it's picking up on the context and tones of what
Yeah.
we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I really love about your music is every time I listen to it, I get a new little bit that I think, yes, 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 they get it. They so get it. And you guys are like almost the lounge music of protest music. I hope you like that reference.
I like it. I like that. I mean, um, where I always am reflecting on what's going around
Yeah.
us, I think, and we've never really written love songs.
Hmm. You're telling me
Or
pulled pork's not a love song?
what's that?
You're telling me pulled pork's not a love song?
Sorry to tell you that. Um, but the sorry to break the news about
I know,
pulled
right?
pork.
I'm devastated right now, Ian.
Um, but it's we write, we don't write about these are my feelings,
Hmm.
and in an ethereal way. I think we're writing in a direct way in terms of language, but it's always cloaked in absurdity, and people,
Yep.
I guess that's what makes people laugh. In the same way that a comic points out situations we'd never thought about.
Yep.
I mean, we're not comparing ourselves to great comics, but we're thinking along the same lines.
Yep.
Of we're living these things and go, wow, this is like really kind of weird and absurd, but everybody's
Yep.
talking about it. Let's talk
Yeah.
about it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so one of the things that yeah, I did notice, and thank you for writing a song for me because I am a very unhappy wedding photographer. I looked at those like, how did he know? So yeah,
That
so
song, that
yeah,
that song, Beck, is really feels like an Inception song. It feels like
yeah,
it's what how the stress of leisure was started. It
yeah,
feels it feels at the time of John Howard, when John
yeah,
Howard was in power, and when I came back from the UK, and I'm walking through New Farm Park and I'm noticing these gatherings, right?
yeah,
I'm feeling a sense of isolation from what is happening and what Australia has become.
yeah,
And so it's that sense, and it's sort of, this song is kind of built through the prism of, I am at this thing and something grotesque is really happening.
yeah, yeah,
And then I'm kind of like, and I'm noticing everything going on. I said, can't these people know where this ends?
yeah,
Don't they know where this story leads to?
yeah,
So I guess it's kind of in the vein of it's in the eyes. You, like, as the photographer, you're seeing it.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
feels very like where the stress of leisure started. I
Hmm.
mean, I think of New Farm Park when I'm singing that song or when I'm in that song,
Yeah,
and so I feel, because that's where we live, I feel that's very part of when I first coined this term and when I started recording music. It kind of feels very inherent in this
yeah,
song.
yeah. Yeah, because that one really stood out. I have to listen to that one because I identify with the title. And then when I sort of dug a bit deeper, it's just like, oh yeah. Like when you're at that wedding and just thinking, wonder how far the divorce is.
Yes.
They don't seem particularly happy.
We're always, I think, as humans, we're always like, we try and shy away from discomfort, but discomfort finds us. And I think this is the relationship with some of the songs on many of the songs on this album, and it's seeming to find us more and more, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really about dealing with discomfort.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why. So we're writing in discomfort in a very direct way, as we're pointing towards things that
Yeah.
are absurd or uncomfortable.
But you do it in such a nice way, in such a lovely melody, and just some. And I am finding this album was a lot more lo-fi than your previous one. There was a lot more jarring melody on your last one. This one, it just sort of like I put it on in the background while I was editing, content briefs for the web for my day job. And I
Yeah,
was quite happy to sit there and just, dip in, dip out, dip in, dip out, dip in and dip out and listen to it 3 times.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the production is we did it. We recorded all these songs in 5 days, essentially.
Wow. Yep.
It is really quick process. We worked with John Lee down at Phaedra Studios again.
Yep.
So there's a relationship to Bow Wave and this album in the sense of it's recorded in the same place.
Yep.
Both John and us, we've both been through the pandemic. We
Yep.
both have, we've had different experiences,
Yep.
and then we're coming out the other side. We decided pretty early on to record a lot of this in the style of a 70s band, such as Modern Lovers or everything, where you just
Yep.
get in and it's a lot of live takes.
Yep.
So about half the songs are just completely live, except for the vocals, maybe. And so a lot of them are quite got an immediate quality. And we really worked hard on tempos and getting the tempos right beforehand. So we knew,
Yep.
like in the past, sometimes you write a song, and, oh, that was a bit quick because we're really excited to be in the
Yep.
studio
Yep.
and jump ahead with the energy. Whereas this one, we were really like, we're not using a click track, but we're being very attentive to, does this tempo feel right? Has it got
Yep.
the right energy for the
Yeah.
song?
Is it presenting the right pace for the
So the
listener?
flow probably feels more as it should
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I really, really quite enjoyed listening to it this morning while I was doing something I didn't particularly like doing. So it made that process a lot more pleasurable. So on our last conversation, we talked about Talking Heads. I actually found this one a little bit more television.
Right.
Were you
Okay.
listening to television much or?
Television, like Marquee Moon is this, to me, is how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
When I think of that album, it's one of the few pieces of music in terms of the rock and roll world that we inhabit
Yeah.
that I look at and I go, this is amazing. This is just a glorious piece of work.
Yeah.
And I've always been inspired by Tom Verlaine's phrasing.
Yeah.
So it has always been an inherent part of the stress of leisure.
Yeah.
And people would say, oh, early days when they were reviewing me, especially before all the members joined the band,
Yeah.
what it is now, would say, oh, they'd either say Tom Verlaine or they'd say Robert Smith, or they
Yep.
so there's always been these. I've never really been a huge Cure fan, but somehow
Yep.
that kind of creeps in. But it's that Tom Verlaine sensibility, I think, flows through a lot of bands I love.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like Lou Reed. There's a guiding light there for
Yeah.
me.
I found that some of the stuff that you did on this most recent one sort of fills you up the same way
Right.
as a television song does. And then at some point in the song, it's like you let out a sigh. So it was really nice because I absolutely love Marquee Moon as well. I find it's one of the most perfect pieces of music ever written. It is such a fantastic album. But that's how I found it's like that building up, and you feel like, you don't even realize that it's happening, and then you feel this sigh or this release that happens at some point in the songs, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, wow.
I really enjoyed that part of it. So let's talk about what's your favorite song on the album, or do you have one of the all your favorite babies,
Um,
or which
it
even go in?
changes all the time.
Yeah.
Um, I'm I'm pleasantly happy with all my vocal takes
Yep.
on this album. Which I've never been on any previous album. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean I'm gonna not find fault with it,
Yep.
because I think what drives any musician songwriter on is that they can never actually get what they want,
Yep.
and so they continue to keep writing and continue to keep capturing it. I'm forgetting the original premise of your question. I think I'm rambling off.
That's
off,
okay. That's
off
it makes for a good episode on our podcast.
um,
So it's basically which one do you like the best, but you
oh,
kind of have
which song
answered
do I
that.
like?
Which one are you
I
looking forward to playing live the most?
I the Man Who Makes a Racist Comment is a really easy song to play.
Yep.
These songs on this album are so much easier to play than in the last couple of albums we've
Yep.
done. So there's something in that. There's something in the fact that they're simpler, in terms of me,
Yep.
what I play. So I'm really comfortable playing Man Who Made a Racist Comment, or um, It Goes Away with the Heat, or some of the songs when I've played, you feel so like, oh, I've really got to, like, because they're not easy guitar parts, so you got to
Yep.
kind of be right on it. Whereas some of the songs on this album, I go, oh, I've got all the freedom in the world to play
Yep.
them. And Man Makes a Racist Comment is probably the simplest song I've written to play and
Yep.
perform it. So that's great. And
Yep.
Coffee and Internet is really fun in the sense that we as a band have to be intuitive about the space that we leave in that song.
Yep.
So there's a real fun element to a number of the songs on this album which I've gravitated to.
Yep.
Um, Unhappy Wedding Photographer is another one of that feels easy and just feels really natural. So
Yep.
those songs they'll probably be in the set a lot because they'll
Yep.
give me a break, and I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. You're lucky
And I
you
feel
have.
also, yeah,
Yeah. I was gonna
and I
say
feel cathartic. Yeah,
yes.
sorry.
I was gonna say you're lucky you have the band behind you are
Mm.
one of the most tightest units I've ever seen. And you all look like you're individually on that stage in your own little sort of tones, but it works. And you guys generally, I don't think I've ever seen you guys stuff up on stage ever. And I've seen you quite a bit because, as you know, I photograph all of Paul's stuff. So, you know, um, so yeah, I guess having you not having to go, oh crap, that I've got this weird guitar piece I need to play and also remember to sing just will make it easier for you on stage to sort of be that front man and you know.
Yeah, we now been playing. So Jessica Moore, Jane Elliott, Pascal Burton, and myself have been playing live together since the start of 2015.
Yep.
So we're coming up. This is our 10th year
Yep.
playing live together, and there's a level of confidence we all have in each other.
Yep.
Um, it's really easy to play. We we have a relationship, yeah, where we all do have certain sovereignty over what we're doing on stage,
Yep.
and I've always liked that in bands, and I
Yep.
think that was really apparent. I don't want to speak for John, who recorded us at Phaedra, but I think one thing he said is like these parts are all like they go together really well. Like
Yep.
your band fits together really well in all the parts they play.
Yep.
And I've always been conscious of that. Like if you've got an instrument, try and occupy a certain sovereignty in what you're playing. And
Yep.
I think we achieve that as a band, and each individual member does bring separate elements. Like Jessica can be melodic in her drumming and
Yep.
syncopated in a way which is has a certain melodic and rhythm flow. And Jane is once again she's quite melodic in her playing, And Pascal's naturally melodic, being a keyboarder. So
yeah,
there's all these different melodies that kind of mesh together,
yeah,
which I think works somehow.
yeah. It definitely does work because, as I said, you guys are super tight on stage, and I never ever see you guys put a foot wrong. I never see a miss note. So well done there. So let's move on to the last question. Live. So you guys are playing at the Cave In. I can't remember the date exactly to do your
October
album
4th.
launch. Yep.
October. Yeah.
Yep. And you're also off on tour with Custard
Custard and the Fauves.
and the Fauves. Yes, yes,
So you mentioned Paul Curtis before, and
yes,
Paul Curtis has been listening to the Custard album, Suburban Curtains.
yes.
Paul has been listening to the Fauves, Tropical
Yep,
Strength album, and he's
yep,
been listening to our album.
yep,
And Paul managed to draw a piece of string which
yep,
unites all three of us.
yep,
And he said that there's a simpatico going on here between all three of you and what you're doing.
yep,
And in a wonderful turn of events, we're all touring together.
yep.
We all like each other.
Which is helpful.
We share. I think I'm not speaking for anybody else's age in the stress of leisure, but I will account for my age in saying that Custard and Fauves are of my generation. I understand their humor.
Yep.
And they make me laugh
Yes.
in the same way that I don't know whether I make them laugh, but when I hear their lyrics, when I hear the Fauves lyrics or I hear Custard lyrics, I go, oh yeah, we get it,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's kind of like that unspoken three comedians walk into a room and we kind of have this unspoken language. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's nice. It's a nice feel, I think, between the three bands.
I think it's a little bit of a match made in heaven for the tour, because you're going to have a lot of people who like all three of you, and I think you're going to have a full room pretty much from the get-go. So
that would be amazing because, like, until the Fauves joined, we were could have been in the middle band,
yeah.
but now we're the big band, so we do have to encourage people to come early.
You're the baby band, Ian.
But it also means that we get to just kick back. We play an opening set and have a great night.
No pressure. No pressure at all.
Well, and we get a proper sound check because we're the first band.
That is
so
true.
Like that'll be all set for us, and then the bands like Fauves and Custard following us will have to wrangle with the sound.
Well, hopefully Dave doesn't have any guitar mishaps like the last tour, where I thought he was going to throw his guitar into the crowd.
Dave would never do that. Dave is like
he's too much of a gentleman.
Well, no, Dave is so in the moment of not being fazed by anything, which is the quality. I asked him this question. I said, like, so if we were playing and I asked you to get up and sing a song like that you never heard, or like, if we were ready to go and just jump on stage and do a song now, you'd be ready to go. And he goes, let's do it. So he's very much like in the moment. Let's just work it out. Let's do something. Yeah.
And that's an awesome personality trait. Just get in there and do something.
Yeah. It's quite incredible. He's got a lot of confidence in something working out, which a lot of us musicians are pretty uptight about that sort of stuff.
Or pessimistic about looking a bit foolish.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever been anywhere on Custard's or Dave's memorandum of operation, I think.
Not at all.
Or else he wouldn't have been doing Bluey, I reckon.
No, he's a great adventurer.
He is a great adventurer. But thank you for speaking to me today. I will let you know when it pops up on our YouTube channel.
Thanks,
and good luck for the release. And hopefully I'll get over to your launch.
Yeah, it'd be great to see you. And thank you again for taking the time to chat to us and for all the complimentary words.
I'm an honest person, and recognition is due where it's due.
Oh, thank you, Beck. And
all right, thanks, Ian.
Yeah. Ciao. Bye.
See ya. Bye.